Alright, we're going to review Unit 9, cubic and polynomial functions. The first question, use synthetic division to simplify. So, we look at the divisor. The divisor in this case is x plus 4. We're going to use that plus 4 and take it outside the parentheses, which makes it a negative 4. And then we're going to place that outside the division house. And then we're going to take all the coefficients from our dividend, which is here, and place those numbers inside the house. Our dividend has a degree of 3, because that's the largest power. And because it has a degree of 3, I'm supposed to have 4 terms. As you can see, I only have 3. I am missing the term that comes after the squared term, in between the squared term and the constant. So as I insert the numbers into the house, I need to remember to put a 1 in that place. So the first number is 1 from the cube term, followed by a 4 from the square term. Again, I need a 0 for the missing x term, and then a negative 8. Then I draw my equal bar and begin the synthetic division process. So first part, bring whatever first number down, and then take that number, multiply it with the outside number, which is negative 4, put the result under the next number in the house, and then you add. So 4 plus negative 4 gives me 0. Repeat the process. 0 times negative 4 is 0, plus 0 is 0. 0 times negative 4 again is 0, plus negative 8 is going to give me a negative 8. Separate the last number from the rest with a dashed line, and then identify your quotient and your remainder. My quotient is simply x squared, because there are no other terms due to the coefficients being 0. My remainder is negative 8. So I can write it separate like that, or I could also express it as an equation. So it would say x squared minus 8 over x plus 4. Be prepared for anything on this test, so that's why I gave you both presentation styles. Again, the quotient and the remainder separate, or all together as one. Number 2 would like for us to factor x cubed minus 64 completely. If you remember the SOAP process, you could use SOAP to answer this question. If you don't remember the SOAP process, you can use the procedures we've been using in Unit 9. The first thing you would need to do is graph x cubed minus 64. So grab the calculator. You can use an online calculator as well if you don't have one of these. And y equals, so we're going to put x cubed minus 64. Make sure your window is the standard negative 10, 10 window, which is good. And then you can hit graph. When it finished graphing, I only noticed that the graph touches the x-axis one time. When it touches the x-axis one time, that means I see one real solution. So second graph will bring up the table. So that solution happens to be 4. So we're going to use synthetic division to prove that that solution is 4. So 4 goes outside the house. So since the degree is 3, I'm supposed to have 4 terms, and I'm missing 2. I'm missing both of the ones that are in between. So inside the house, I would use a 1, 2 zeros, and then a negative 64. Write your equal bar and begin the process. Bring down the 1, multiply it with 4, add it to 0, repeat. 4 times 4, 16, add it to 0, repeat. 16 times 4, 64, add it with negative 64, you get 0. So my remainder is 0, which is proof that 4 is a solution. So now that I know 4 is a solution, I need to write out the quotient as in with the variables back. So that would give me x squared plus 4x plus 16. Now the reason when I looked at the graph, I only saw it touched one time, again, is because there's only one real solution. If I went through the quadratic formula and solved x squared plus 4x plus 16, I would have imaginary solutions. And at this point in time, imaginary solutions are not necessary. And so we're not going to use those as factors. Otherwise, in a different scenario, however many x-intercepts you see will be the ones that you use to write your equation. So when I write this equation in factored form, I need a small parenthesis and a large. I will put the quotient in the large parentheses, x squared plus 4x plus 16. And then I use the other solution, the 4, and I put it inside parentheses with x, but you got to remember when you put things inside parentheses or take things out of parentheses, you change the sign. So when I put 4 inside the parentheses, I need to make it a negative 4. So this is the solution right here to number 2. Number 3 wants us to find the inverse of that function. So the first thing we do is change f of x to y. Then you switch your x and your y. Everything else stays the same and in place. Now we get y by itself. First thing I would do is subtract 5. So I would have x minus 5 equals y cubed. And then you could either use the cube root or the reciprocal power to cancel the power of 3. I'm going to use the reciprocal power and apply it to both sides to get y by itself, or with the power of 1. That's why you use the reciprocal, so that you have a power of 1. And then I still have x minus 5 in parentheses on the left with the power of 1/3. And then my last final answer is write it in the correct notation. So you use f inverse of x equals parentheses x minus 5 to the 1/3 power. Number 4. Number 4 says rewrite the following using rational exponents. Rational just means fraction. So the first thing I would do is take all the contents that are inside this root and put them in parentheses. And then change it to rational form. So it's the root is a seventh root. So the 7 will go in the denominator of my fraction and a 1 will go up top. So the 7th root is the same thing as the power of 1 over 7. You then distribute that power to everything inside the parentheses. Distribute it to x and to y cubed. So that means take each power that's already in the parentheses and multiply it by the power of 1 over 7. So x would be to the power of 1/7 now, and y would be to the power of 3/7 when you multiply the powers. Five says if x plus 2 is a factor of x cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12, what is the other factor? So we're going to use synthetic division with a -2 outside because it says plus 2 is a factor. So that means when you take the 2 out, it becomes negative. Draw your house. Count your terms. It's a degree 3, so I'm supposed to have 4 terms, which is correct. List them all inside. So 1, -3, -4, and 12. And then carry out the division process. Bring down the 1, multiply it with -2, add it with -3, multiply it with -2, add it with -4, multiply it with -2, add it with 12, so the remainder is 0, which means one of the solutions is -2, which it should be, because if it's a factor, that means it's also a solution. Now, I know that the quotient is x squared minus 5x plus 6, which means that A is 1, B is 5, and C is 6. I'm going to use the quadratic formula, which says x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And yes, you need to memorize this. All right, so opposite of b is 5. Then put everything else in place. We're going to find the discriminant first, which is everything under the root without the root. So that's parentheses -5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6. And you get 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 5 plus or minus the square root of 1 is 1. And then you separate. So 5 plus 1 over 2 and 5 minus 1 over 2. plus 1 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the other solutions are 3 and 2. So when I put the 3 and 2 into parentheses to write it in factored form, I got to remember that parentheses are liars. So you got to change the signs. So the factors that are missing are x minus 3 and x minus 2. Those are the missing ones. Those are what they were asking for. But you can't forget the original factor as well if for a complete factored form. So again, the ones in green were the ones they were looking for, but I provided the entire expression in factored form just so you don't forget how to do that as well if asked. Number 6, finding the inverse. So first, again, we change f of x to y. Then switch x and y. Then get y by itself. First, I would subtract 9. So I would get x minus 9 equals y plus 4 cubed. I'm going to use a reciprocal power, but you could use a cube root if you choose. So the reciprocal power is 1/3, which is the same thing as a cube root. The 1/3 causes the 3 to disappear and the parentheses, so all I have is just y plus 4. I then subtract 4 from both sides, but when I subtract 4, I cannot subtract it from 9. 9 is trapped in the parentheses, so and it won't come out. But I can still show it on the left-hand side. And then write it in the correct notation. So f inverse of x is equal to x minus 9 to the 1/3 power minus 4. All right, so we're going to solve x to the 2/3 power, or 2/3, plus 8 equals 44. If approached with a question like this, the first thing you must do is get the x term by itself. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. That would leave me with x to the 2/3 is equal to 36. I then, again, use the reciprocal power to get x by itself, which would be 3/2. So x is by itself. And then you probably need a calculator to do the 3/2 power. So it's 36 to the power of alpha y equals 1, and then 3/2 to make sure you type it in correctly. And it gives you 216. So the solution is 216. Number 8, what's the factors of this polynomial? So it's a degree 3. So it has a maximum of 3 real solutions. So let's go to our calculator and type it into y equals. I can keep the x cubed to change everything else. Plus ax squared minus 5x minus 84. Hit graph. So I told you earlier I could have as many as 3 solutions, which means as many as 3 x-intercepts. And I can see that it crosses the x-axis in 3 places. So I'm seeing all of my solutions, and they're all real solutions. So I could look at my table and identify at least one of them so that I can use synthetic division to find the others. So I see one right here, it's positive 3. So let's use that one and confirm. So positive 3 will go outside the house. It's a degree 3, so it's supposed to have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is correct. So I'm not missing any. So 1, 8, negative 5, and negative 84. And carry out the division process. Bring down 1 times 3 is 3 plus 8 is 11 times 3 is 33 plus negative 5 is positive 28. And then 28 times 3 is 84 plus 8 negative 84 is 0. So my remainder is 0, which proves that, yes, that is a solution. And the quotient is x squared plus 11x plus 28. So A is 1, B is 11, C is 28. So let's use the quadratic formula. And find the others. X equals opposite B plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. All right, opposite of b is negative 11, positive 11, 1, 28, and 1 again. Find the discriminant, which is everything under the root. Type it correctly, so 11 squared minus 4 times 1 times 28. Double check that it's in correctly and hit enter. I got 9. So my discriminant is 9. 2 times 1 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. Now separate, so negative 11 plus 3 over 2, negative 11 minus 3 over 2. Negative 11 plus 3 is negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 11 minus 3 is negative 14. Divided by 2 is negative 7. So those are the remaining solutions. So when I write it as factors, I'm going to need 3 parentheses this time because I have 3 solutions. And again, x is in each. And don't forget to change signs. So the first solution was 3, so that means I put a minus 3. The next solution I found was negative 4, so I put a plus 4. And the last one was negative 7, so again I put a plus 7. So these are the factors. 9, we're solving an equation. This one involves a root. So the first thing I would have to do is make sure the root is by itself, or do what I can to get it by itself. And I've done that part, or it's already done for us. So next thing we got to do is cancel out the root. So the little number inside the root tells us what type of power to use if we want it to cancel. So we're going to use a power of 3. It's a cube root, so we're going to use the power of 3 to cancel. So that 3x plus 4 will come outside the root. 5 to the third power is 125. Now continue to get x by itself. Subtract 4 from both sides, leaves you at 3x equals 121. Then divide by 3. So x equals, so 121 divided by 3 is a decimal, so I want to turn it back to a fraction. And it's 121 over 3. So the solution is 121 over 3. And number 10 is our last question. It says, after x plus 3 is divided into x cubed minus 4x squared minus 30x plus 8, what is the remainder? So we're going to use negative 3 outside the house.
It's 1:40 p.m.
And then it's degree 3. So we're supposed to have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put them inside the house in order. And start the division process. Bring down 1 times negative 3. Add it with negative 4. Negative 7. Negative 7 with negative 3. Positive 21. I don't need the plus sign. Well, I'm adding, so yeah. That gives me a negative 9. Times negative 3 is a positive 27. Plus 18 is 45. So the question said, what is my remainder? My remainder is equal to 45. All right, so this concludes the review of Unit 9. Do your best work on your test.